Recently, there's been a peculiar reoccurring theme in Star Wars. Characters just don't die. The Return of the Jedi, perhaps infamously, is based on the Emperor's return with little explanation as to how he escaped a one-way trip down an exploding reactor shaft. Obi-Wan Kenobi's given us not one, but two people who've survived lethal lightsaber wounds through pure willpower. First off, a lot of characters have managed to come back alive, but it's also not exactly a novel concept. Darth Maul famously survived becoming half Maul when he returned with those wicked robo-spider legs in the Clone Wars. After battling Obi-Wan on Mustafar, Anakin survived losing numerous limbs and being burnt alive long enough to be evacuated by Palpatine. It's all sorts of stupid. In a way, for a series so obsessed with and burdened by its own past, there's dark humor in the statement that Star Wars simply can't let certain things go, unless they're random scumbags or, regrettably, Han Solo. But all of those people, as well as the characters we've lately seen evade death in this fashion, Palpatine in Rise, and both the Grand Inquisitor and Reva in Obi-Wan, have one thing in common. They are practitioners of the dark side of the Force. The only explanation offered for them surviving deadly wounds is the passion that gives them their strength in the first place. They're simply too enraged to die, a pure force of will to persist out of spite and wrath that allows them to defy unfathomable odds. What's the concept behind cheating death in this universe? It's intriguing to watch Star Wars rely on this notion more and more, especially since it's not the only option to avoid death we're seeing more of recently. The light side of this duality also is getting in on the act, as we see and hear more from Force spirits in these stories. This is demonstrated by Liam Neeson's last-minute appearance as Qui-Gon Jinn, as well as the voices of the Jedi from all eras speaking to Rey in the film's conclusion, with the spirits of Luke and Leia watching over her. If Star Wars took the concept of turning death toothless, it's at least coming at it from an interesting angle, other than low stakes or a need to never let things go. Sure, death still counts to certain people in the galaxy far, far away from a specific point of view, but focusing on Force users in particular, we've seen plenty of people bite the bullet in Star Wars recently. They just happen to be regular people, soldiers, and bounty hunters far removed from the spiritual conflict of the Skywalker saga. We get this fascinating idea of contrast. That's quite clever if you ask us. Okay, so who can manifest as a Force ghost? It's long been established canon, at least as far as we're aware, that the Force is constantly in motion, and so on and so forth. And the power to materialize as a Force ghost is only available to light practitioners. After all, it's why Palpatine repeatedly spent so much of his existence as Emperor urgently pursuing increasingly obscure ways to retain his soul beyond his original body. But it also now makes sense why so many Darksiders beyond him, who don't have the ability to go bounce off to a far-flung planet and build up a cult of cloners, protest against death so much that they survive what should be lethal wounds. Death, however, is nothing more than an enhanced sense of perspective for the Jedi. In recent tie-in material, Qui-Gon's path as a Force ghost been about his developing mastery of this new form that allows him to transcend standard viewpoints. He can finally physically engage with the corporeal world, and he can see past time itself. In The Last Jedi, Yoda's developed some resemblance to this concept, extending his vision. Death, according to the Jedi, is not the end, but the beginning of something new, a persistent beyond one form as you enter into a broader realm, as Obi-Wan taught Luke in A New Hope. Okay, so what happens if the dark side cheats death? To attain this huge new degree of potential, a Jedi must let go, not just of their physical body, but also of the belief that their body supplied all the perspective that they were able to observe. When we compare this to recent instances of Darksiders cheating death, we discover an intriguing resemblance. The Darksides adopted the act of not letting go at all, hanging on to everything: wrath, fear, retribution, the knowledge that your legs are suddenly not linked to your body, and such a desire channeling the Force itself to maintain oneself through horrible pain. Pain as fuel for the Darksides, a frequent theme in Star Wars, evoking the passion that gives the Sith and their acolytes the power they seek. However, reframing it as the idea that given the alternative of physical and spiritual oblivion, these people are simply too angry to give up, creates a contrast between the Jedi and the light side that's far more intriguing than the cyclical tale of good and evil that their conflict is typically framed as. Two conflicting takes on the same action, which Star Wars enjoys exploring so much. Finally, is it really easy for the characters to let go? It's made even more fascinating by two recent examples of Darkseid users defying this notion: Darth Maul's death in Star Wars Rebels and Reva's survival in Obi-Wan Kenobi. Both revolve around these characters deciding whether or not to let go of long-held grievances towards their masters. For Maul, despite his grandiose hate of Obi-Wan, he still wishes to see Palpatine destroyed for leaving him. Reva wants vengeance on Vader for the carnage of the Jedi Temple during Order 66. One decides to find another way to remain in this world beyond their hatred, while the other simply abandons it. Here's some other news you might have missed out on. First off, Taika Waititi's Star Wars plans might be earlier than expected. Taika Waititi, the filmmaker of Thor: Love and Thunder, may be directing a new Star Wars film that'll be released sooner than initially imagined. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Waititi's Star Wars picture might hit theaters sooner than expected. According to several sources, the project's now aiming for an early 2023 release. Although the new Star Wars movies has been in the works for a few years, Waititi never imagined he'd be a part of it. During the Thor Ragnarok press tour in 2017, Waititi was asked if he would ever direct a Star Wars picture, To which he replied, "I prefer to finish my projects. Within a week, I'd be fired." This comment came out on the heels of the firings of filmmakers Phil Lord and Chris Miller from Solo, a Star Wars story, and Colin Trevorrow from The Rise of Skywalker. Waititi has a long history with the Star Wars world. Waititi was cast in the first season of Disney Plus's Star Wars series The Mandalorian in 2018, following the success of Thor Ragnarok. He just announced his comeback for the season 3 of The Mandalorian. When talking about his new Star Wars film, Waititi shared that he plans on expanding the universe by including more characters and settings. Secondly, Darth Vader originally won the final battle of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Darth Vader emerged as one of the most important characters in Disney Plus's Obi-Wan Kenobi series. The figure, played by Hayden Christensen, serves as the principal adversary, standing opposing his former master, Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Many fans were curious about how the character would be used once it was announced that he'll be included in the film, and that Christensen would be making his comeback to Star Wars. In an exclusive conversation with the Direct's Nathan Johnson, Obi-Wan Kenobi writer Stuart Beattie discussed Darth Vader's position in the project's initial screenplay. Beattie penned the first of the 3 Obi-Wan Kenobi feature films, and his plot was later adapted for season 1 of the Disney Plus series. The author also discussed how people needed to think that Darth Vader was the one who killed Anakin Skywalker. Beattie characterized his version of Darth Vader as obsessed with Kenobi and with vengeance. He also claimed that Emperor Palpatine was involved in his plot from the start. Finally, a fan edited Obi-Wan Kenobi into a movie. Following the recent revelation that the Disney Plus series Obi-Wan Kenobi was initially planned as a single feature and maybe a trilogy, Hawaiian filmmaker and fan Kai Patterson has turned the series into a 2.5-hour film. The Patterson cut is the filmmaker's free internet version of the film. He stated he did it since the original series had odd pace and performance issues. Patterson's website also warns potential viewers that the digital version he's making available shouldn't be shared publicly, that everyone should do their best to keep this edit out of the hands of movie pirates, and that the film should only be watched or downloaded if you have a Disney Plus subscription. So as yet, Lucasfilm hasn't issued a statement or assigned attorneys to serve a takedown notice. When Obi-Wan was still in production for a picture, writer Stuart Beattie stated that his plans changed following Solo's underwhelming box office result. That's a wrap for this video. Are you disappointed that characters just won't die in the Star Wars universe? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.